Hello and welcome Inside Fever Insider Live. Brian Haenchen, Chloe Peterson, and our good friend Tony East here with you. Fever training camp is well underway. We had media day yesterday. We have a preseason game Saturday. Chloe, there's a lot to get to, I suppose. So I'll let you direct the ship for this first segment of the show that we have with Tony.
Well, I mean, it feels like there's a lot, but there's also like nothing because we've talked to everybody over the past 5 days. Today we talked to Bree Jan because we talked to everybody yesterday. Who else do we have to talk to but Bree in January? She talked about, when you're talking about the preseason game, she talked about it being less of a scouting report of the Liberty. Obviously, the Liberty are very different from what they were last year, and more of them just figuring out what they want to do.
Along those lines, Tony, what are you expecting to see? What do you want to see from Saturday?
Yeah, what looks different? Basically, that's kind of what I was prying at with her defensively before asking about the Liberty. Is there any, because preseason rotations, people will read into it. Please don't do that. It's a preseason game. They're trying combinations. Rookies are going to play, at least some of them. That's all a part of it. And evaluating them is important. But, what's different from last year in terms of, I don't remember that set. I don't remember them being that high or low on this sort of ball screen coverage, things like that are noticeable to us. Obviously, we're not all basketball like deep dive masters, but things that look different. How good are they at getting to the stuff they want in terms of the pace, the sharing of their best three players with the ball, because they only played 13 games together last year. So all that will be important to me.
Yes, I also think, to your point, Tony, it's important to not look into the rotations too much. Similar to the first couple games of the FIBA tournament where they did hockey style, ins and outs. Nothing is really going to be decided by this one preseason game. Caitlin Clark said herself she's not anticipating playing very much. She shouldn't play very much because, at the end of the day, this game does not matter. So they don't want to overexert her for the games that do matter.
I want to see where they put Mo Billings, but the thing with her being new is, if they start her, maybe that means they're going to start her, maybe it doesn't, but we don't know how they really feel about, do they want to have her heavy at the starting four? Do they want that to be like how they start games, but mostly she's the backup five? That'll be important and interesting, but it's hard to say what exactly they're looking for, especially like their potential backup center is not with the team yet. It's impossible to know what their backup front court rotation is going to look like and things of that nature, especially again when they have to see where their rookies are at, if they're ready to play them, if they want to go with their vets. So it's gonna be fascinating.
It will be interesting to see how much runway any given rotation gets. Like if you have one that's rolling, do you give them a chance to settle in? If they're rocky at the start, do you give them, like, how much runway do you give them to get settled in and get things figured out? Just kind of that balance. And then also the veterans, because Sophie, we talked about, hasn't played a lot of basketball coming off that injury, whereas Caitlin Clark get a chance to see her at FIBA, so that makes sense. So just how do you balance their minutes as well? And then, too, I'm really interested in the combos, and I think that's probably something that we'll get a better idea on what lineups they like and what they don't like in these next two preseason games, since they're playing three of them. But I think maybe we'll get a little bit of an early indication here on who stands where. And then, too, with some of these new pickups and some of the kids that they drafted, how can they handle, how do they fit in, playing WNBA action?
I was telling last year. it was so obvious. Like, Chloe, you sat next to me for the preseason games at home. Like one preseason game, and it was like, oh yeah, clearly Michaela Timpson is the best rookie. Like it's not even a discussion. And lo and behold, she made the team, right? Like that is also very telling in all these games.
Yeah, I think a lot of it too is, media sees the first 30 minutes, give or take, of practice every day. The past 2-3 days before today was defensive sets. Today was shooting drills. And I don't think at any point we will be getting like actual scrimmages. So the preseason games are the opportunity to see how they put together what they put together.
It's hard to say you're even impressed by anybody during the set parts that we see of camp, because it's literally them stretching, joking around, messing around, and then recently it's been they split off into two groups. We don't really see the starters till the back half of it, and just kind of rudimentary defense, get into them. Today was a little bit of just basic catch and shoot stuff. So it really is, from a media standpoint and a fan perspective, it's going to be really informative.
I think too, the usual giveaway is like, okay, are these 5 players that we all think could be starters wearing the same jersey color? And that really hasn't been the case. Like, to me, if you go through like who's the blues and who's the whites, it looks clear to me that they're doing mix-ups right now, which that's what you should do, right? Get your combos on the floor, get players experience with everybody at this time, and then when you get closer to real games and you know what groups you want to see all together, then you run them out at practice all the time and get those reps going.
Yeah. Chloe, do other teams show their scrimmages? Somebody says, how come we see other teams that I don't recall seeing our scrimmages?
I mean, maybe I'm just not dialed in to other reporting of training camp, but I have not seen other teams do scrimmages, and, maybe they do scrimmages or other teams do stuff like that. But with every team, they specifically pick what they want the media to see in the open period. Yeah. The Fever have made it obviously clear in what they've shown us that they do not want us, at least in this first week of training camp, which makes sense because they haven't shown anyone really what's going on with scrimmages. But yeah, I don't think
they clarify. We've seen clips of scrimmages, not full on ones. That's what I meant. I mean, it's team by team. The Fever like to keep things close to the vest. That's fine.
Yeah, that's just, I think, what the Fever decide to do.
Yeah. Some teams like to play it like that. Others a little more open with that stuff. It's not, good or bad one way or the other. It's just a preferential thing. That's how I look at it, at least.
Yes.
Have we ever seen a full start to finish scrimmage ever? And we've seen good portions of some.
There was one last year, season ticket holders. There was a.
That's right.
I can't remember if that was with the practice guys or an actual scrimmage, though.
My only memory of that day was Sid Colson holding court and making everybody laugh. So I did forget about the game that happened.
Let's have some fun. Who's been, like, of the people that we've talked to, media day yesterday and that, who's been kind of like your standout star? Like, Caitlin, obviously a great talker, but has anybody else jumped out to you? You're talking to them in terms of personality and kind of the fun of it. I have an answer in mind, but I want to hear where you two go.
Dude, Maisha Hines-Allen's so cool.
That's what I was gonna say.
And this is maybe like me reading too little or too much into nothing, but the way she plays and the way she talks are completely different. Like, she is so nice and thoughtful and caring and connected. Not that she's not like caring about other players when she's playing, but she plays tough as as anyone in the league. She's a hard hitter. She's no fun to play against, and then she's such a sweetie behind the mic. I was like, and she was very insightful too about her free agency and the team. She said the Fever wanted her before, and she said Caitlin wanted her specifically. I thought that was very revealing. Like, I really enjoyed her media session. I'm looking forward to seeing her play. I think I'm higher on her than anybody also, just generally.
I agree that Maisha Hines-Allen, like, obviously yesterday was the first day we talked to her, and she's very funny. I can't remember who told her that, Sophie said, she was a bruiser and they were happy to be on, or she was happy to be on the same team. And Maisha was like, oh yeah, I want to be on the same team as Sophie too. So I think, she's really just open and really just relaxed, I think, as a person off the court.
Something too, like she mentioned it, and a lot of the other free agent players mentioned this too, but just like the fact that the Fever wanted them and just like the way that they courted them and just that chemistry thing that we talked about through the trials and tribulations of last year, I thought was kind of interesting. Kind of gives you a glimpse behind the scenes of how this organization operates, and is something, that's not totally invaluable with this sort of stuff. Raven Johnson has been sneaky popular too, just among her teammates, with the coaches. Talking to her yesterday, she alludes to having the number 3, and I was with Chloe. I thought that it was like some like deeply meaningful thing, like, oh boy, get the tissues ready because here comes some heartfelt answer. No, she said, I just think I look good in the number 3.
Yeah, I remember the question she answered. She was like, I can't believe I'm here. I'm a WNBA player. I'm wearing the number 3. I feel like I'm dreaming. And I was like, oh, that feels so significant to her. What does number 3 mean? And she's like, it looks good. And I was like, that is a great answer too.
Yeah, she did make it seem like it was about to be some thank goodness I could be number 3. I was so worried it would be taken, and it's absolutely nothing. She even wear 3 in college, completely out of nowhere.
Oh, it's so good. So good. I saw her too. I guess her, Dawn Staley, and another one of the players in the W from South Carolina all had like a FaceTime call. I saw Dawn tweeted out. So that network has been talked about a lot here during training camp, and it is a cool thing that they have going down there at South Carolina.
Yeah, I mean, three Gamecocks on the Fever roster.
Yeah,
as of now.
But so close to 3 titles for Raven Johnson in her 5 years.
It's crazy.
All 5 years she went to the Final Four.
Wow.
What else do we need to get to, Chloe, before I start popping in some Q's and some A's while we have Tony?
I mean, I don't know.
We're at that spot, folks, where like we've talked internally about so much, but we're also gonna have another show on Sunday to talk about the actual game where we're actually gonna get to learn some things.
Yeah, we're at the point where we've talked about what there is to talk about, I think. I mean,
did you guys go do a show after Media Day?
No.
We did not.
Okay, we could toss in some nuggets. Like, for example, Kelsey Mitchell does not plan to play overseas ever again.
Yes.
Even though she is currently signed to an overseas basketball league that starts later in this year. Amber Cox would not get into the realities of Sophie Cunningham's negotiations, but also kind of was like, yeah, also our cap sheet next year was a this, which was very telling and revealing with an epic eligible Caitlin Clark next year anyway. And all sorts of little nuggets from that I think are worth getting into.
Yes, I have thoughts on Kelsey, obviously. And I had the same question that you had with when you asked her if she was playing overseas, and she said, she was pretty down on her overseas experience. I know when she came back from China, I believe it was before the 2025 season, she did not talk highly of her time in China. She talked about, she broke her finger over in China and then didn't get the adequate medical care, obviously, for that. And I think that obviously really, colored her experience playing overseas, if not anything else. But I thought it was interesting, as you mentioned, that she is signed to Project B, and she said she was never playing overseas again. But I know Front Office Sports confirmed that, or with Project B, that she's still signed to their roster as of today.
I think a challenging part of that, if I had to guess, is that she signed with Project B before the CBA was signed, which makes sense. You have to make decisions with the information you have. So do your commitment and then maybe never have to do that again.
I also wonder if it's like, if she meant overseas as in like playing for an overseas team. Because I feel like Project B kind of has a different vibe. I don't know, like, because they're kind of like traveling around, but I guess we'll see.
Anything on the Sophie thing I mentioned also?
Yeah, we should probably talk about that. We haven't had a show since then.
I mean, that's about what I expected Amber to say, honestly, when asking her about the Sophie thing. Obviously, they're less than $5,000 shy of the top of the cap this year. And they have a Supermax coming for Aaliyah Boston next year, a max coming for Caitlin Clark, and potentially a Supermax if she wins MVP this year. So it makes sense that they are just keeping the flexibility open, for future years. Obviously, the only two players under major contracts past this season are Lexi Hull, Mo Billings, and I guess Aaliyah Boston now with the Supermax, but signing out of free agency for multiple years on a major contract are Mo Billings at $800,000 for both this year and next, and then Lexi Hull, I think $765 this year and $803 next year, if I remember correctly. So, and then Damiris Dantas, but she signed for the minimum both years. Yeah. So I think they just want to keep that flexibility open, knowing that they're going to have to spend, $700,000 extra dollars on Caitlin Clark, if not more.
I have found the competing thoughts from fans to be interesting of, when Aaliyah got the Epic, everybody said, well, how are they going to afford to keep this team together next year? But then Sophie signed for 1 year and everybody said, why didn't she sign for multiple years? That's why. You just said it in your first question. They have to be able to think about their whole team. And if they sign Sophie to a deal that's too long or too big, and that prevents them from keeping Kelsey Mitchell and filling out their team, that's not worth it, right? You need to be able to keep your best players first, and if something falls apart, you can circle back, or even after you sign that best player, you can circle back and figure out the money that is actually possible and makes sense. Like, I think because they had to basically go year to year to have Kelsey on the Supermax. They had to go year to year with other players as a result. That's just how it was.
Mm-hmm. Doesn't mean they won't be back. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think there's obviously been a lot of talk about if they're able to keep, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, all on major contracts. And I think we saw it with the Liberty this year. They have, I think it's 3 players on regular maxes, not super maxes, but they also have, it's a similar thing with, I think, the Pacers, Tony, as you know. Obviously, they're dealing with a lot more money over there, but I think you said like Tyrese Halliburton, Pascal Siakam take up 60% of the cap themselves or something like that.
The difference for them is that it's a soft cap that you can go over, but there's a much higher percentage. But the Liberty is a good comp because they have 3 players at 17% of the cap, right? And Stewie, Jonquel, and Sabrina. And so if Aaliyah's at 20 and Caitlin is at 17, then if you have Kelsey at 17, that's barely different. It is different, but not so much that it clearly they built a very good team, right? So I get why it's a concern. Like they had a huge advantage with Lainey Hamilton and got Sably to sign for $2 comparatively. But that they did build a team. Like it is possible to do that.
Yeah, and I think something the Liberty had going for them is they have shown they are a contending team. Like Satu Sably went there for a discount, likely because she thought she could win a championship with them. Whether the Fever could manage to do that with free agents next year, obviously bringing back Kelsey Mitchell or signing big free agents, we'll see if they can do that too. And that obviously depends on how they do this year as well.
Yes.
Yeah. I was looking at the Liberty salary cap page on Hurry Up Stats. They have a lot of reserved free agents and a couple of restricted free agents in there too. So they
all come. Yeah, the thing about the Liberty is they are very good with draft and stashes. So they have
been good. Like if the player's not good and ready, it's a disaster for them. So they've been lucky that they've been good at doing that. Also, to your point.
Mm-hmm. Lexi mentioned too that she'd gotten interest from other teams, right? And that was something new that I don't think we'd heard yet. Same thing. Sophie the day before media day mentioned that she had other offers to go elsewhere for multiple years, but wanted to stay here. Not necessarily surprised, but at least worth mentioning that there were opportunities for both players to go elsewhere, but they opted to stay here in Indiana.
And Lexi, we know because we would have seen it, did not sign an offer sheet somewhere else, for example. And with Kelsey, with other teams, like some people have this suggestion that there's only 3 players on a Supermax. It's her, Asia, and Fee, right? That's it. That she's overpaid because she's in that group, but she's not as good as those players, to be clear. But the thing with Kelsey is, if you don't core her, she can leave. Like that is obviously worse than overpaying her by a little bit. So as soon as you send her the core offer, you're basically accepting that there's a high chance she's going to be on a Supermax. So I understand why people are saying that, but it's almost like you had to as the Fever, not you chose to, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I think going back to the Lexi thing too, there's an important distinction, as Tony said. She did not get an official offer sheet. She did not sign an official offer sheet. Obviously, it would have shown up in the WNBA transactions log like it did with Shakira Austin. That doesn't mean she didn't get offers from other teams or she didn't
wasn't conversing with them.
Yeah, she wasn't negotiating with other teams. Like just signing an offer sheet would have basically forced the Fever to either obviously match it or let her go. And it also could have been a situation where she, talks to other teams, negotiates with other teams, and then goes back to the Fever and says, hey, this is what I'm hearing from other teams. How much can you sign me for, essentially?
Mm-hmm. It had to be so interesting that when the Fever were going to these players and being like, here's exactly how much money we can fit to do all these things. If you get a really good offer, that might be a little tricky for us because they spent like every dollar possible. Yeah. So, I would, good agent work would be Lexi Hall going to their teams and seeing what the offers are. And if they're way better, sure. But if not, like if you wanted to be back anyway, great. Who cares?
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. Give it a year. You win the championship, then maybe you feel good. You got mission accomplished, then maybe you chase the bag, or maybe you want to, you know what I mean? Like at least then you have some options by coming back, which seems like something that is noteworthy there. Let's see. Trying to think of what else there was yesterday that was super noteworthy. It was cool seeing like Ty Harris and then Traylor coming back, Traylor coming back to their hometowns and getting to rep the Fever there. That was just neat, from a personal standpoint, and too, just cool to see the hometown kids back.
Actual news, there were like changes to the health staff, not a full change, but some changes. So like we've seen a million things of action they've done that suggest that they're addressing what happened last year with all the injuries that they had. I don't think there's a ton more than that. That was like actually new information, unless I'm forgetting something. They
kind of skirted around the strength and conditioning question. I was curious to see how last year, and there was a lot of freak injuries, but just does that change your approach on the S&C side of things? And it kind of maybe a little bit, but nothing super major.
Yeah.
Everybody's super happy to be back. They're really excited for the season ahead. They love Indiana.
What? The team that paid them money they're excited to be with? I can't believe it.
Who would have thought? The only other thing that comes to mind is just the fact that like a lot of the returning players, the core girls, all got together kind of and talked among each other. I think Chloe might have talked about that on Saturday or Sunday.
Yeah.
But just everybody kind of getting together.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that, Caitlin, Aaliyah, Kelsey, Sophie, Lexi all talked about, talking to each other. Obviously, Caitlin and Aaliyah already signed, but the other three, like just talking about wanting to come back and wanting to just run it back, essentially.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Let's see. I'll go ahead, Tony.
Oh, no. I honestly thought more teams would run it back more than actually happened because of how just chaotic everything was.
Yeah, I was kind of surprised how much movement there was.
Me too.
Because I thought a lot of people were just going to go back to where they were, because why would you want to sign with a new team and move and then start work within?
My small theory is like maybe people didn't expect movement, but then once a one or two players like more than expected moved, there's more money somewhere else now, and so that just kind of snowballs at the top. And then once all the stars are settled, it was more like role players. Everybody stayed, but that's kind of what I think how it went down. Okay, this was very fun, everybody. I've been having fun reading the comments, but I do have to leave. I'm sorry.
Okay.
Tony, it was good to talk to you, buddy. We'll see you next week.
Yeah.
See you guys.
Thanks. Tony East, everybody. Chloe, let's jump into the Q&A here, unless you had something else you wanted to get to.
I do not.
Let's have some fun with the Q&A. Our core looks great in camp. Can we get more coverage of who we picked up? Yeah. Is they're made available. We talked to everybody at Media Day yesterday. Chloe and I have been trying to tweet out videos and updates as we see them.
There's a story out in Mo Billings at IndyStar.com.
There is. And it's like we said, it's difficult too because you don't get a look at everybody. You don't get, during practice and stuff they do see is kind of mundane. But there'll be plenty of coverage. It's a long season. We still have a couple more weeks of training camp too. So Chloe and I will be on a lot of that stuff. Yeah. Does it look like there is a set starting five yet? I'm sure it will change throughout the year. Anyone who stands out in camp that you weren't necessarily expecting? This is something you and I have talked about, that first question, Chloe. So I'll let you take it away.
Yeah. I think 4 out of the 5 spots are relatively set. Like obviously Caitlin at point guard, Kelsey at shooting guard, Aaliyah at the 5, Mo Billings at the 4. I think, the question will be between Lexi Hull and Sophie Cunningham at 3. And I don't think they could go wrong with either option. Obviously Lexi started the season by starting last year. And then Sophie took it over mid-season, and then, Sophie got hurt. Lexi came back to the starting role. So I think the top 6 are pretty set. It's only the question of who starts at the 3. And I think, you couldn't go wrong with either one of them.
This question I didn't start, but a couple people have asked about Damiris Dantas. It's still a visa thing. I didn't get any updates. Have you heard anything new since we left practice?
I asked at the end of practice today. They said, they're working on it as much as they can. It's, out of their hands. It's the government having to approve her visa, and then obviously her having to get here, which is an arduous journey in of itself. At this point, this isn't anything reported, but I would imagine she would not be available to play in Saturday's game. At most, she'd be there, maybe potentially, but she would not play, in my opinion. Kind of similar to, she was a late arrival at camp last year as well. because she had a death in the family at the beginning of camp last year, and she was at their first preseason game, did not play. So I don't think we'll see her until, I guess, the government gives her visa.
See, next comment, I'd like to see Raven guard Sabrina Ionescu. That'll be interesting. I mentioned that to Chloe actually when we were talking in the car today. I'm really interested to see Raven and how she's deployed defensively against a lot of talent there in New York. That'll be fun to see. I know the coaches have been really high on her. Question for you from me. I'm a member of the audience now.
Yes.
How many minutes, if you had to estimate it, how many minutes do you think Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hall, Leah Boston, the starters, Kelsey Mitchell, how many minutes do you think that the regulars are going to see tomorrow or Saturday in New York?
Yeah, tomorrow I thought had the fear in me that I was going to miss my flight. Jeez, but but I would think 20 minutes, give or take. As someone said in the chat, 20 minutes. Great minds think alike. But yeah, I don't see them playing any big minutes because I also think the starting lineup is relatively set. They have 4 starters returning, whether it's Lexi or Sophie at the 3, they have 4 starters essentially returning. So I think what they want to figure out more is how the second unit will work, because the second unit is a lot more new people. And I think they're also, they've been very consistent with saying, they don't want to overdo their starters. They want to get a good rotation. And obviously when it came to last year, that was kind of out of their hands with all the injuries they had. But I don't think I see any starters playing over 20 to 25 minutes.
Yeah. Somebody says that Raven will probably get in for a good stretch, but I don't think she should get 20 minutes during the season. Well, what if she looks like the best player on the floor? Then you're capping her minutes.
I think
silly.
I think, preseason, Raven Johnson will get a good 20 minutes per game. But when the season starts, I see it as unless she's, shocks the world, I would imagine it's a 5 to 10 minutes per game for her, kind of going into the rotation of the regular season.
Yeah. First preseason game, 10 minutes for Caitlin Clark. I cannot wait to see your mentions if and when that happens. I think that'll be really fun for everybody else. Let's see here. Did you see the reactions to Caitlin Clark saying she's best in transition and how many nationally televised games the Fever had? What do you think of that stuff? Does the team see that kind of stuff?
I mean, I doubt the team sees that kind of stuff. We asked, or Kareem Copeland, ESPN asked Steph White yesterday about on Tuesday, he asked Steph White about the viral Sophie Cunningham clip from Monday, and she just went, I have no idea what you're talking about. So I think the coaching staff obviously doesn't see it, but I think the players have talked about, being off social media in a way that they don't pay attention to those kinds of things. And when it comes to the nationally televised games, obviously all 44 of them are going to be nationally televised. Like, that's good exposure for the Fever. That's how the Fever think of it, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I don't think they pay attention to any of that.
This is an interesting question here. Basically, players are starting to get away from other teams. Do you expect to trim down after this first game? When do you think the Fever are going to start making their roster moves? They obviously have 3 games to play with.
Mm-hmm.
When do you think we start seeing some movement on that side?
Well, I think it's interesting. The wave or the cuts we've been seeing so far from Dallas waived 2 people the other day. And I think Dallas brought a ton of people into camp. So I don't think it's surprising that they're cutting people early. With the Fever, they have 16 players in camp. 14 of them are going to make the roster in some way, shape, or form. 12 of them obviously on the standard roster, 2 in developmental spots. So I wouldn't be surprised if they bring the entire 16 through all 3 preseason games and then just do their cuts at the end. They could do it in between the second and third preseason game, but I think with how little cuts they have to make, why not give them all every chance they can to, prove themselves? I think with rosters like, I think the Phoenix Mercury have 23 people coming to training camp, and Dallas had a bunch as well. You don't get, or in those situations, you don't get as many opportunities to see the rotations with how many people you have in camp. But with the Fever, their rotation is pretty much set already, or at least who they think they want to be in their rotation. So why not just give the people on the bottom of the roster essentially every chance they can to make that final development spot.
To be clear, I think there might be some confusion based on the exchanges going on in the chat. Chloe and I are talking about minute caps in the preseason games that are meaningless for those who have spots guaranteed. So just to be clear,
yes,
we're talking preseason, specifically Saturday in New York against Liberty, an exhibition game that does not count, towards performance bonuses, all-stars, any of that stuff. So to clear up any confusion. Justine Pissat, we had a chance to talk to her a little bit yesterday at Media Day. I don't know. I should have asked about her. One of us should have asked about her maybe today during media availability, but it seems like she's settling in okay.
Yeah, I mean, we asked her about being on the developmental squad, and she described it as essentially a redshirt year for the pros, is the way she is thinking about it.
Mm-hmm.
So I think, this is something that's new to every team with the developmental spots. And in the practices we've seen her, it's been mostly, obviously, defense, but she looks good so far. I think she's a very long, lengthy player. She gets her arms up, and she's 6'4". She can, she's a big guard that can take up a lot of space defensively. So I think so far she's looking good. I'm interested to see, how much she plays and just how she looks in an actual game.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of the developmental spots, this would probably be helpful, Chloe. I know that you've studied up on it and have this down to a science, but I'll just let you explain how those rules works, when players can be picked up by other teams, how long the Fever have to match that offer to retain them, and the inner workings of that. So we asked Amber Cox about that.
Yes. Well, if you want to read about it and have a reference, go to IndyStar.com, first of all, but shameless plug. But basically, so the developmental spot rules are essentially like an NFL practice squad is the way I think about it. You have 2 players on the developmental squad. They can do all team activities, all practices, all outings. It's unclear to me so far now that I'm thinking of it if they can travel with the team if they are not active, but I will check on that. But they can be activated for up to 12 games per season. They make a stipend of, I believe it is $750 a week, and they make just over $6,000 per game they are activated in, and they also get free housing. So that's the brass tacks of it. I was trying to think. Yeah.
14 days, isn't that the magic number?
So basically the reason that the Fever put Justine Pissat on the developmental squad straight away is because if they signed her to a standard rookie scale contract at the beginning of camp, they went through camp and then decided they wanted her on the developmental squad, they would have had to waive her, let her go through waivers, have all 14 other teams have a chance at getting her. And then assuming she clears waivers, she would go on the developmental squad. But the Fever were afraid of her not clearing waivers, obviously, because they think very highly of her. And obviously they think other teams are going to think very highly of her as well. So they put her directly on the developmental squad. So when it comes around to the season, they do not need to waive her and kind of go through all that. And I think what a lot of things I've seen is, why aren't the Fever giving her a chance of making the team essentially? And my opinion on this is the Fever's 12-player squad, unless someone, shocks the world in training camp, is that it is essentially already set coming into training camp. So the Fever knew coming into training camp that there was a 95% chance Justine Passat was not going to make the final roster. So they use that as a form of protecting her so no one else would be able to pick her up. So as you mentioned with the 14 days, they have exclusivity for 14 days that no other team can like contact her or her agent and negotiate with her. After that, teams are able to contact her and offer her a spot on their standard player roster. If a team offers her a spot on their standard 12-player roster, then the Fever have, I cannot remember if it's 24 or 48 hours. They have either 24 or 48 hours to match that and put her on the 12-player roster in order to keep her. If not, she can go to the other team's 12-player roster. So I think that's the gist of development spots. Obviously, everyone's still learning about these things, and
it's a brave new world out there.
Yeah.
Do you think teams will have vintage jerseys for the W30 anniversary? I don't know about vintage jerseys, but that would be really cool. They did have little patches, though. I don't know if you picked up on that. They have some cool little 30-year patches on there. But throwback jerseys would be neat.
Yeah, I think that'd be fun.
Yeah, I'm a big uniform guy, so I'm pro throwback uniforms for sure. Are we surprised that the Fever signed Lexi Hall to a long-term contract for more money than Sophie Cunningham? Chloe?
I don't think so. I mean, Lexi Hall has made it very clear that she wants to stay in Indianapolis long-term. And I think that can be to the advantage of both players, or not both players, both the player and the team necessarily, because in one vein of it, you don't want to show your hand of maybe they'll try to offer you less. But on the other vein, like the Fever know she wants to stay here and she won't demand a trade or want to leave eventually. So maybe they're enticed to put her on a longer contract. And I think also Sophie Cunningham is coming off an injury. Obviously she's been cleared. Obviously she's ready to go. But there's always questions, as she mentioned in her podcast, there's always questions coming off an injury of how you return, especially after a major knee injury like an MCL. So I think that kind of hindered Sophie in free agency, just along with the fact that the Fever wanted that financial flexibility that we talked about.
Let's see here. Speaking of Sophie Cunningham, how has she looked coming back from the surgery? She looks pretty good. She looked good today, shooting the ball.
I think she looked good. Obviously, we haven't seen scrimmages running the court. All of this will come on Saturday, so we'll see more. I think a lot of questions people have will be answered in some form starting on Saturday.
Yeah. See, this is just a fun fact to know and tell. Raven Johnson's wearing the number 3 is relevant because her boyfriend, Nick Emanwari on the Seattle Seahawks, also wears number 3. She didn't say it's speculative to suggest it's reading, but that is a cool connection nonetheless. There with the number 3. Has Caitlin Clark sent you guys the picture that she took on media day? Chloe, I know that you guys text regularly. Have you seen the picture yet?
I have not. I imagine it will go on her Instagram at some point. So
yeah, we should have talked to Tony about that because I think he's front and center on that photo too. But that was a fun and kind of unexpected moment. You noticed in the middle of it, I think you might have actually pointed out like, oh, she has a camera on her leg.
Yeah,
just hanging out there, and then at the end she has everybody squeezed together. And the scrum, I tweeted out the picture, but it's kind of just a big arch of people. And
yeah,
she was
taking notes from Pascal Siakam. He's done it the past couple Pacers media days. So I think starting when he re-signed in Indianapolis, he's been taking pictures every major press conference he does.
I love that. It's a fun thing, a fun, lighthearted way to keep things lighthearted. Anyway, anything else you want to get to? Anything else that we should talk about before we call it a day?
I don't think so. I mean, at this point, there's not much else to talk about other than how will they look on Saturday, and we won't know until Saturday.
Yeah, now you know. Looks like it's going to be the slogan. I saw that being painted on the wall, the mural outside of Gamebridge Fieldhouse on the way out this morning. So to answer that question from a couple shows ago, We're going to be back on Sunday with the show. Our friend John Nolan from the radio side of things is going to be on with us to help break down that game between the Fever and the Liberty. Chloe's going to have coverage out there. I'll be at practice on Friday. And then, we're off until Monday when the week starts up again. But we thank you all so much for watching. For Chloe Peterson, I'm Brian Haenchen, and we will talk. Wait, what?
Someone's asking. I did listen to Drop Dead by Olivia Rodrigo. I've listened to it many times. It is very good. I enjoy it. That is Chloe's Corner.
Oh, and yes, also another cursed phrase. Josh Heron, our third cohort on the beat, texted us the other night to let us know that he has dipped his toes into the Samurai Turn.
Yes. Cool. I invited him to come on Chloe's Corner, so.
Here's actually a good question, one that I asked you. Does the developmental activation create a 13th spot on the roster with replacing spots for the game? That's replacing spots, correct?
I believe so. I'm not entirely sure. I think it's interesting because, obviously players can be ruled out without obviously being out for, the season or suspended contract. I would think it's a 13th spot on the roster. So, but we don't know. I'm not entirely sure if the CBA full document is signed yet. So whenever that happens, we'll know things.
Hardship contracts are not going away. Those are still a thing.
Yes, those are still a thing. Amber Cox, when we talked to her, mentioned those are still obviously things, and she wants development spots to be development spots more than anything. So, hopefully the Fever don't have 6 season-ending injuries this year, but if that does happen, it will, be a hardship situation again, but they'll also have some kind of depth where they can take these players and use them from the development spots who have already been within the Fever organization.
We get into the developmental spots a little bit with Fever GM Amber Cox. That one is on the YouTube page, as is today's interview with Bree January. Some clips from Media Day yesterday. Video from all the days of camp so far. Also available on the IndyStar YouTube page. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. IndyStar TV Fever. So all of that, we'll have videos from New York that Chloe sends me. We'll have videos, from Fever practice tomorrow morning that I will upload, and it'll just be great fun for everyone. So with that being said, for Chloe, for me, I'm Hank. Thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll talk to you again here on Sunday night.